Richard was one of our charter members of our advisory board committee that has probably been in place for 16 years. Our 16th anniversary will be this September. So he was a member of what we call the core group, which is the group that preceded all of us in even bringing Bill Johnson to Alva. And so his participation went from the core group to the advisory council, and then now as chairperson of the Chapel Coalition Committee. And I tell you, Richard has he's just been here. He has done so much for this project, and I think he is the one that I would like to talk about. All the other members of the coalition, it was an amazing team, how we pulled together, such a great group. But it was all the right people, and they were all absolutely dedicated, came to all the meetings, and helped us get to this day. So, Richard, if I could turn it over to you to recognize the committee and all the work that they've done.
Thank you. After that very flowery introduction, I'd like to say the end of it was probably more appropriate. That's utilizing the people that were here to help, and that's the way I feel about it. A lot of folks here have been very, very instrumental in making this happen. At first, I'd like to thank all of you for being here today, showing your interest at the final time, get a chance to look at what we've done. We're proud. I hope you like it. Second, we'd like to compliment the powers to be for the weather. We've had some 60-mile-an-hour winds here once or twice. We've had dust storms. Today is perfect. We got our sidewalk in, so we don't have to walk in the mud if it would have rained. So we're quite pleased that everything turned out as it did. I like the idea that you mentioned about reentry, and my wife is going to have to make an adaptation to me being home after the time I spent out here. Johnny's, I'd like to recognize you for your putting up with my strange schedules and phone calls in the middle of the night and whatever, you know. So thanks for that, and I think it'll work fine. When we started out, we pledged to build this chapel twice as fast as it could be built with state money for half the price. We have succeeded. Here we are today to dedicate and present this chapel to the state of Oklahoma. We are pleased to be able to do that, and I would consider this chapel to be a miracle. It's amazing that through the period of time we've had, every time we have a problem, there's a blessing and the problem is solved. We have had numerous problems. For example, yesterday afternoon we didn't have a sound system. Today we do. This is one of several. I didn't even worry about it when I went to bed last night. I'm so convinced, my faith is so strong that it's going to work. And it did, once again. Some of you have been a part of each one of these things that have happened, and we do appreciate that. Let's proceed down the road to consider how all this came about and how it happened. These things just kind of occur, and we had this thing on a fairly fast track, if you'll believe that. We had a meeting of the Community Advisory Committee, meets periodically and has met, as she mentioned, for almost 16 years. It's been able to tie the community closely to this institution. And we had one last spring. I recall visiting with Judge Linder in the hall afterwards when we got the news that they were going to convert 2 of our program facility buildings to dormitories for people to sleep in with no provision to solve that problem. And we were discussing that, sort of trying to hopefully find a solution. And this guy sitting on the front row here, member of the Board of Corrections, David Henneke, came up and we were visiting, and he said, I've heard about a particular thing that the World Mission Builders do, and they are working at one of our facilities over at Taft, Oklahoma, Eddie Warrior. And this might be the answer to what you're doing. It's not exactly what we're looking for, but a building is a building, and it can be used 24/7. And thanks to his visitation in that hall, we got a ball rolling. We had some interest. We found out from David who to get a hold of, and some guy named Dr. Joe Wilson appeared on the scene. And it went from there forward. It's been a long road, but we discussed this thing. We worked it out with Joe. And what I call this thing, actually, you've heard of the Miracle on 34th Street. I consider this entire project the Miracle on Flint Avenue. But this is only stage 2. The first stage is when we got the facility here originally. There's several people in the group here that were members of that original group, 5 to be exact, I think. And we were up against some pretty tough competition. It narrowed down to 3 different towns wanting this facility located there, this new innovative type prison facility. We wanted it bad, but so did these other 2 towns, and they had better location facilities and things than we did. But we worked harder. We put more effort into it. We had better perks, and we were successful, and that was the first miracle. The second miracle is the fact that this happened from a casual conversation in a hallway to getting a hold of Dr. Joe in a period of less than 10 months. We've got a finished facility here. There were a list of, I believe, 7 or 8 different locations that were ahead of us on this list. We moved to number 2, with Taft being number 1 under construction, because we had the faith and had some good possibilities of being able to get this thing off the road quickly, which we did. The result was we got to going on this thing, and it didn't slow down until we finished. We utilized the World Mission Builders, which Joe represented, to help us construct this. They are a fine group. They bring a series of like 10 to 12 motorhomes, campers, and things in. Stay for 2 weeks. These people are trained. They have their own tools. They come ready to work. And after they arrived, we worked through the group we had to accommodate them. But it was a great experience for everyone. The first meeting we had was set up with Dr. Joe. We called this, and on a short notice, put together a committee of 10 people to serve on this. The first 5 we had were previous members of the old original committee 16 years ago that were still around. And these people are Mr. Ed Sutter on the front row here. He brought legal experience. He brought procedural expertise and fundraising abilities to the board. And he was a logical person. Asked him to be vice chairman, which he did. Judge Dean Linder, the person that was with me and came up with the idea to do this, a local judge. So pleased to have him. He should be giving this address. He's a fine public speaker, not as I am. He's an excellent public speaker and had some ideas on financing things that were helpful. Mr. Freeland Roberts, I see back here on about the 3rd row, retired VOTEC administrator. He is used to running tight organizations and tight finances. He is our treasurer. He keeps track of all those nickels and dimes, all those contributed items and things to make it possible. And we're glad to have him. Stan Klein, former mayor, he has contacts throughout the state and the city, and he was a member of our board, and myself. And since I was last to be there, I was chose to be chairman and made it work somehow. We had 6 other members who were asked to join this group. These are people that weren't on the first group. They were around, saw how good it was, and wanted to join. Kirk Washburn, he was our transportation person. He runs a car dealership here in town. Kyle Eubanks, he's president of a bank. He helped us with our financial situations. Terry Martindale, a big part of our thing. He's the pastor of the Methodist Church here in town, sitting on the 2nd row. And he coordinated our church efforts throughout the city through the Ministerial Alliance. This was not just Kirk's over here too. I didn't see you, Kirk, but Terry did a wonderful job of providing for food and housing for our volunteers that were here. And this food was a pretty big thing. We set up our own kitchen and everything. But he did a great job. Dr. Janet Cunningham, who had a conflict and couldn't be here, put the full resources of the university at our disposal. We got one big piece of thing from them. It was one of these big containers they put on ships and put on trains, and they end up trucking to your location. A 40-foot long container we use for a tool house and a equipment storage and material storage building outside the frame here, and numerous other things she did through her office that were helpful, including printing these programs that we have today. And one other person that did a little bit on this, a guy named Egner, Jerry Egner. He's back in the far corner over there. He was our mainstay superintendent. And all I can say is it probably wouldn't happen without you, Jerry. You were wonderful. And we certainly appreciated that. He's had 50 years of contracting experience in his life, he knew what was going on. He foresaw the problems before they happened, so basically we didn't have too many problems. And thanks again, Jerry. And one person was sort of ex officio. She didn't have a choice. Everyone else, I asked them, they didn't turn me down. They all said yes. I didn't bother asking her because she's the warden. And we knew she would be here. And she has made available a very, very fine staff that helped us put this thing together.